Okay, here we go. Alastor the radio demon from Has-Been Hotel is canon ace in the show, although I didn't see the live stream where it was apparently confirmed. I've seen lots of people saying the character's creator, Vivian Medrano, has confirmed that Alastor is Arrow ace. For people not familiar with the terms, ace, short for asexual, means one experiences little to no sexual attraction to others and or interest in sex or self-pleasing as an activity. Arrow, short for aromantic, is the same thing, but pertaining to romantic feelings and or activities. Vivian Medrano has said in the past that it's okay with her that people ship Alastor with other characters. After all, fanon isn't canon. However, there's been a noticeable number of people becoming critical of the Alastor shipping plus romantic and or explicit fan art and fan fictions, often paired with the accusations of aphobia or arrow ace erasure. There are many ways ace and arrow present. It's not one size fits all. Although there are some aces and or arrows who feel no attraction or arousal or are even sex/romance repulsed, that isn't representative of us all. There are so few ace characters out there that ace representation can be taken as representation for all types of aces, since there's little chance of said character explicitly saying or explaining where they are on that spectrum. While sex/romance repulsed or just completely uninterested aces and arrows may want Alastor to represent their experience, we don't know for sure where on the spectrum he lies on the show. It's not accurate to say he's sex or romance repulsed just because he rejects Angel's advances, because that may just be that Al has no interest in Angel due to his crass nature. Within just the show itself, we don't have enough examples of Alastor showing repulsion to sex or romance to make that claim. Vivian Medrano has described Alastor not knowing his orientation by him thinking he just hasn't met the right gal yet, suggesting he's the type of ace/arrow that does in fact desire a relationship. At the very least, he anticipates one could eventually happen. With not much to go off in canon, that's where fanon comes in. For aces and arrows on the end of the spectrum where they do feel attraction and arousal, using an ace character's fan-made content to explore that part of themselves helps to feel represented. I myself am ace and possibly might be somewhere on the arrow spectrum despite that I don't use the arrow label, because I don't have enough personal conclusions to claim it. In order to talk about my feelings on Alastor in ships and explicit fanon content, I need to discuss my identity as an ace person, what ace representation means to me personally, and the type of ace that I am. In sharing my experience as an ace person, some of the personal details might come across as TMI, but please understand that it is for context, and I will keep it as safe for work as I can. My labels are biromantic, igosexual, and default non-monogamous but can be monogamous. Igosexual is an ace label on the ace spectrum. Igosexual people do experience sexual attraction and arousal. Unlike other types of ace that may not feel it at all or may participate in sexual acts because of the physical stimulation it provides without actually feeling explicit attraction to the other participant involved, Aigosexuals can enjoy self-pleasing and enjoy consuming explicit entertainments such as reading smut or watching adult films. However, we don't really desire to have sex. We enjoy being the audience, not a participant. Nor do we enjoy thinking of sexual acts as a physical activity based in reality, but rather enjoy thinking of it as purely a fantasy. Because of the type of ace that I am able to feel sexual attraction. I am able to feel arousal. I do enjoy self-pleasing. Sometimes this feels like I'm not truly ace because of the stereotype that all aces are not able to enjoy anything explicit at all. This has created an ace imposter syndrome experience for me at times. This is why ace representation is important to me. But there's more layers to it than that. You see, I'm on a stimulant medication to treat my eating disorder. Unlike antidepressants that can lower libido, one of the potential side effects of stimulants is raising libido, which is unfortunately what happened to me. For context, the eating disorder was causing liver disease, so medicating it is something I have to do. It's not an optional thing, so I can't stop taking the meds to avoid that side effect. Despite that I am the type of ace that can enjoy self-pleasing, sometimes it gets on my nerves knowing within the first few hours of taking the meds that I will feel the strong urge to self-please. It can get very annoying when I'm trying to do other things and mentally don't feel like doing it, but my body won't stop sending me the signals till I usually give in. It can become a lot to deal with when it feels like my body is pressuring me into self-pleasing rather than it being something I consciously desire to do. I will admit I do have it easier than others who may experience this because YouTube is what I do full-time currently. I'm trying to monetize the channel and also waiting while my application for disability assistance is reviewed, so I am in the house all day, which makes it easier to deal with the hypersexuality side effect among other unpleasant side effects from the meds. Even still, it gets frustrating. I don't mean to ignore that there are those that have it worse, because I do acknowledge that. I know some people who suffer from hypersexuality can't even change their clothing or bathe in peace because that will trigger the urge. What I experience is nothing to that degree. But then there is a final layer on top of all that. There was once a time where I did experiment with explicit activities just to see how ace I was or wasn't. I thought since I didn't enjoy the idea of being a participant that exchanging explicit content with someone via texting might feel okay to me. I used to do this with one particular person who I once regarded as a friend. There were times that they had even paid me for the content. However, it started becoming too much for me and I had to stop, only to experience this person bugging me multiple times to reopen the arrangement, even going as far as saying they set money aside because, and I quote, "I'm just trying to get you to do it." That particular message was one they sent me after we'd had a very long trauma dump conversation where I opened up in depth about how badly the interactions in the arrangement had affected me. This person's disregard towards my well-being is what led to me cutting contact with them. The harassment I experienced from them trying to pressure me to restart the arrangement paired with how the last explicit interaction had affected me, ended up causing me to develop sexual trauma. This makes the hypersexuality particularly frustrating because oftentimes I'll get intrusive memories of the pressuring texts this person sent me while I'm feeling the strong urges brought on by the meds or even during consuming explicit media. It makes the experience distressing sometimes. Hypersexuality and sexual trauma are a tough combination, but add being an ace with imposter syndrome into the mix and it feels very weird at times. So having a comfort ace character is important to me. Fictional characters are a great form of escapism, especially when real romance feels like a pipe dream. Finding someone in real life who is ace-friendly is one thing, but the idea of finding an ace-friendly person who would be able to handle being with me with the particular situation of mine sometimes makes me feel like a relationship would be impossible. On top of that, I very rarely feel genuine romantic feelings for in-person people. Typically, it's just celebrities and characters. I used multiple dating apps over the course of a few years between turning 18 to now where I'm 25. And in that time, after swiping hundreds, even over 1,000 people, I found one person that I genuinely felt for. I only met them once and things didn't work out. One person. Just one in 8 years. Which is why I mentioned earlier I might be on the aro spectrum as well, I just don't feel like I have enough evidence for it. So yes, fictional characters are a safe haven for someone who feels real relationships would be complicated or even unattainable. This is why Alastor is so special to me. He's the one fictional character crush I have who is ace. Reading spicy fanfictions or saving shipping fan art that involves him, as opposed to exploring my desires through other characters, feels extra safe with Alastor since he shares part of my orientation. Part of my journey with healing from sexual trauma has been consuming spicy media that feels emotionally safe for me to explore, and what better way to feel safe than for it to involve a comfort character? Alastor I mentioned, but I also feel this way about Crowley and Aziraphale from Good Omens. I have seen a lot of criticisms that it's not specifically the shipping or explicit fanfictions, but rather how some of the fan-made art sexualizes Alastor. And I'd like to direct you to this Valentine's mat of Alastor positioned seductively with his bow tie undone, which is an official merch product. If you're going to criticize sexualization of an ace character, maybe don't direct that at fan art when the official art for the character is already doing that. On top of that, speaking as an ace person, sexiness as an aesthetic does not equate wanting to shag anybody. There are many styles of clothing that I enjoy, including ones that would be labeled as sexy, and wearing something sexy does not make me less ace. Someone drawing Alastor in pin-up clothing might look sexy, but sexy doesn't inherently equal sexual. I have a huge collection of tights, nylons, thigh-highs, and garter belts. Those are typically viewed as sexy, but am I going to be doing anything actually sexual while wearing them? No, because clothing is just clothing. To add on to that, before all the voice actor changes for the main show, The original voice actor for Alastor in the pilot, Edward Bosco, used to make jokes and take fan requests on the Hoonicast where he'd say seductive things in Alastor's voice. To say that it's just the fans who sexualized Alastor isn't a fair statement. I understand that aces and arrows who experience no attraction or arousal may want Alastor to represent them and not have to acknowledge other interpretations of his orientation, but with so few ace and/or arrow characters out there, it's not fair to say aces like me that we can't explore our desires through Alastor just because other aces and arrows don't like it. Most art-sharing websites have not safe for work filters that you can turn on and off. If you want to avoid it by doing that, by all means. But please don't police how others go about with their fanon content. After all, Alastor being interpreted differently in fanon happens outside of his orientation as well. A lot of people feel Alastor looks too white for a person who is half Creole and will often darken his skin in fan redesigns, since in the show, pilot, and merch, his skin sometimes goes from a light tan to gray to straight up actually white, so it would be nice for some consistency and for his heritage to show through his features more. Fan interpretations are a way to remedy this, as well as where he is on the ace and arrow spectrums, since the show may never go over that in depth. As an ace that sometimes feels imposter syndrome with this label, arrow aces complaining in lots of comment sections lately about people shipping Alastor, as if all those people are just heteros with no regard for them, makes it almost feel like I'm being erased. I've seen a couple of other ace and/or arrow people talk about the fandom, accusing them of erasing Alastor's orientation in their fanon despite sharing the same orientation themselves. An example of this is at Skitzel, or just Vince on TikTok. Vince has posted art depicting Alastor as a romantic interest and got harassed in the comments for it. In a TikTok answering this, here is part of what they wrote. Quote, "I'm so damn tired of hearing you're erasing Arrow Ace rep, 'cause I'm fucking not. Leave me alone. I understand how frustrating it is when you don't have a lot of Arrow Ace rep in media. I understand completely, but to come at me with pitchforks yelling that I'm a horrible person is crazy. I'm Arrow Ace. I've identified as such for a good 2 years now. The only person I've had actual romantic feelings for is my current BF. The rest of my life I'd felt broken or that something was wrong with me. Alastor had been a huge comfort throughout all that. Without him, I probably wouldn't have figured out my sexuality for a long time. His character has been one of the only things keeping me going for these past 5 years. He means a lot to me." End quote. To bring my point home, representation matters. When it comes to orientations that exist on a spectrum like Arrow Ace, it shouldn't be a case where some feel left out. Yes, there's an overabundance of Alastor shipping fanon, but there's also a lot of platonic Alastor fanon. There is something for everyone, so let's not flood the comments of spicy fanon with trying to shame others.